Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is Nancy Alexander. I'm the director of the Rehoboth Beach Museum. And today is September 17th. And we're here for an oral history interview. We're going to go ahead and get started. Would you please state your name and spell your name, please?
My name is Henrietta Pierson. Henrietta. And Pierson is Pierson.
And where and when were you born?
I was born here in Rehoboth, Delaware, December 11th, 1925.
Wonderful. Same year as my mom. And where in Rehoboth did you live in your earliest days?
Well, there was a black church called Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church, and my family lived back of that church.
What are some of your earliest memories of Rehoboth?
Well, I remember going to school from, I guess I'd say 6th grade. From 6th grade on up, I can remember going to the school. I remember my first teacher was Eleanor Loper at that time. And the school was Rehoboth Elementary School, 1 to 6th grades. And
where was it located?
Huh?
Where was it located?
Oh, where the Y in Rehoboth, where the Y is right now. Where the Rehoboth Y. Is the Y?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's a YMCA. The school for a time was located on Rehoboth Avenue.
No, that was the white school.
Okay.
But this was the black school.
And did your school have a name?
No, this Rehoboth Elementary School.
Okay.
And so that was, I don't know what street they called it at that time. But anyway, it's where the YMCA is now, that the school. And they moved it from there and put it over on
I forget the name of the street, right off of
they moved it and put it so we could use it as a Rehoboth daycare center. And when the churches would have affairs, and that's where we would feed people over there.
Is it the brown shingle building that is now located just north of the canal?
Yes.
On Route 1, and it is on the north side of Route 1, just north of the canal.
Yes, I can't think of the name of the street, what they called it at that time, but that's where they moved it, and the bicycle shop was sitting out in front there. So that was the one, and we used it all the time. And I remember we would have church services, it was the 3 times in the morning, and I remember going to Sunday school at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they had night services. I can remember all of that, and then there were times when they would have a big day. One year we would have a day called Virginia Day. It was a lady worked here in Rehoboth, and her name was Miss India Ramsey, and she was from Virginia, so she decided we would change. One year, Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church would go to Virginia, to her church, and the next year, her church, I can't think of the name of it, would come, her church and their congregation would come to our church, and it would always be a big day. And I remember when we used to have camp meetings. Well, it was nothing outside. It mostly would just be services. Different ministers would come from different places and speak. And it would be after the morning service. It would be all day affair. So then it would always would be feeding. We had a basement before they used the daycare center. We had a basement in our church then, and that's what the elder women would cook chicken and dumplings, and the men would make the ice cream, and then everything that went along with a regular chicken dinner. So that's what we would have.
Fantastic. That building is still there. It's bordered on one side by the bike shop and on the other side by a cemetery.
That's where when they moved it over there. So then we start having dinners over there, because we stopped using the basement in the church.
I didn't know Mount Pleasant had a basement.
It has a basement, and they have
At Mount Pleasant Church.
that the building on Route 1 has a basement.
But our church had a basement too.
That's what the
Okay.
church. The church is now called Faith.
The church is now Faith United Methodist,
It was
I believe.
it was
and that is on
originally
Church
it
Street.
was Mount Pleasant United Methodist, and then they named it Faith United Methodist.
And that church is more than 100 years old, I
Oh,
understand.
yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that is land was owned by Ada Burton, from what I've been
Eliza.
told. Eliza Burton.
I think she and her husband, I think they're the one that gave the property for the church to be put on that property. Yeah, Eliza Burton. And I don't remember her husband, but I remember her because I remember she would we had lamps, didn't have electric, and she would take the lamp chimneys at home and wash them and bring them back. That was every week affair. That's what she would do. But I didn't remember her husband. And then we would have a janitor to come around and make sure that the church, we had a church bell. Every Sunday morning, he would ring the bell for the service to let us know time for the service. And then he would stay there until after everything was all over. If there wasn't an evening service, well, then everything was all closed up.
Okay. Do you remember some prominent family names from the church and
Yes,
the school?
there were Harmons, and Waples, Waples, and some people spell Harmon Harmas, but I spell it Harmon. And also, what I say, the Burtons down there, and the Waples, and the Millers. I think that's all.
Do you remember
The
the
Longs, my family went by the Longs, Long.
Do you remember your schoolmates' names?
My
School friends?
Oh yes, Nellie Artson. She was a good friend of ours because she cooked at the corner cupboard, and then a friend Bernice Boyer, and Gertrude Van. Well, she was a Burton, and she lived right next to the church. It was her grandmother that gave the church, and she wouldn't, well, she did now. She was, of course, she was younger than me. She was about her late 70s, but she would know an awful lot too. And then cousin Blanche Miller, and Beatrice Miller, and so that's why it's so sad because all of them are dead. And I remember when it would be snowing so hard, I had a cousin that he had to walk us to school, but we had to follow in his tracks because the snow was so high. His name was Edison Long, but he was drowned. And we had to walk in his tracks to go to school. But we had school just the same and everything. And the boys at the school, like R. Miller, Rudolph Long, Benjamin Burton, and Everett Allen, but they would make sure that the fire, the heater would be working at school, and we always had heat in the building. Never was without heat.
Wow.
And it was fun going to school.
What did you like about school?
I really liked, I liked meeting with everybody, and then I liked recess when we would play dodgeball and baseball too, and I used to be the catcher. That, you know, and then sometime in the, during recess time, then I would sit up and go, because we didn't have a piano at home. At home, most everyone had organs, pump organs. We didn't have an organ at home, so when I went to school, there was a piano. Then I used to sit in the instead of going out playing, sometime I would sit and start playing the piano, because I couldn't wait to get to school to do that because we didn't have a piano at home. And that's what I used to do. And then the teacher, I played the piano so much, the teacher sent a note home by me one day, and I wouldn't open it. So my cousin said, open it, see what it says. I said no, and I was scared. I didn't know whether I had done anything or not. But she told her that every recess, lots of times I would be staying inside playing the piano instead of going out playing. And she thought that she better get me to a music teacher so I could get lesson and learn the notes, because I was just picking up everything. Anything anybody sang, I would go and start playing it. And so then she said she thought it would be nice for me to just go ahead and take piano lesson.
Did you do that?
Yes, it was a lady in Lewis,
named
Miss Frances Miller. She gave me piano lesson, and at that time it was only 25 cents for a half an hour. Now, what is it? Probably $3, I guess, for an hour, but it was 25 cents for a half an hour.
What were the favorite songs that you played?
Most of it was hymns, because that's all I would hear in church, you know. I would just play hymns all the time.
Tell me a little bit about your parents and if you had any brothers and sisters.
No, I didn't have no one but myself. I was raised with two, a brother and sister. So we were raised as brother and sister. I was raised with Lillian and Rudolph. They were brother and sisters, and then I just called myself. Everybody said, "Oh, I thought you all were brothers and sisters." I said, "No, they were my cousins, the sister's children."
And what was your home life like?
It was lots of fun. It was a lot of fun. But now, my cousin, look, she didn't play along with Rudolph and I, but he and I played this like a boy, running up and down the road, and we were beating tires, and then he would get out and like want to play baseball, you know, throwing and catching all like that. But she would stay in and always trying to cook, or she would always sewing. But she would do a lot of sewing all the time. But no, I played mostly with him, just played like a boy all the time. Did all the things that the boys would do. And it was lots of fun.
That's great. And your parents or any extended family? What were your parents' names? Or
my grandmother, my mother, and worked. And my grandmother raised us. My grandmother Annie Long and my aunt Catherine Long, so that they took care of us.
How old were you when you started working?
I guess maybe we were about 15, because there was a tea room in Rehoboth. I forgot what room it was, what street it was on now. And there was a couple from Lewis. They cooked Mr. Roy Holland and Miss Edith Holland. They cooked at that tea room, and they had two daughters which were waitresses at that tea room, Elaine and Libs Holland. And then Lillian, my cousin, and we were the dishwashers. And I guess about 15 years old when we started working down there during the summer and everything. And then later on, every time, I don't know why, whenever people come around for the summer and they would want someone to help them out to do something, and they always told them to always go to the house in back of the church, and maybe they can let y'all know who they can get. And everybody would always come back there, and they would one woman, she came back, she needed somebody to help her, just to help her at nighttime to get dinner and everything. So I went and worked, for her just at nighttime. It was a lot of money to me at that time. I would get about $5 or something, and I was tickled to death when we come. I had my own money, but it taught me a lot of things, how to do a lot of things. And then when they told us at home how to do a lot of things too. But then when you go out and work for people, you still learn much more. And that's what, I did. Yeah, I started working about 15 years old. And then when I went away to school, and I went from Rehoboth school and left Rehoboth and went to Lewis to ninth grade, and then left from ninth grade, and I didn't go to Dover. I went to Howard High School in Wilmington. Me and Nellie Artson, we went to Howard High in Wilmington. Then I used to work after school there, just to get a little something, just, to buy, how the little things women needed and everything. And so we had lots of fun walking back and forth. I said, it was a long walk we did too, because I lived on Poplar Street with the family, because I think the state would find homes for people that went away to school, because they found the place for me. So it was a nice family that I lived with in Wilmington. And then we would walk. I had a long walk, because she lived at 1011 Poplar Street, and I would walk all the way out to Union, 4th and Union,
Sure.
going to work for a family of people named Hoyes. They owned 5 and 10 cent stores in Wilmington.
That must have been a big change for you, leaving Rehoboth and moving to Wilmington in high school.
It was a big change, and I had cousins that worked in Wilmington for George Lynch, and they came home. Those men, they came home every weekend, and then Blanche, they were brothers of Blanche, and so Blanche would go home every weekend. I would go home every weekend too. So, because I was, lonely and hadn't been away from home. So one time, when my mother came from work, because she worked for the DuPonts, A. Felix DuPont's family, and she said, every weekend, you coming home. She said, now I don't want you coming home next weekend. She said, you will never get used to being away. So she said, so don't come home next weekend. So I said, all right. So
Can you tell me a little bit about why you went to high school in Wilmington as opposed to here in Sussex County?
I think because Edna Harmon, she went to Howard. You probably don't know Wayne's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne, she went to Howard, and then she was talking about that. And then Nellie had brother that Henry Artson.
Right.
Yeah, and they went to Howard High, so that's why we went. I don't know why we went there instead of Dover.
But
I was
explain
glad.
about the segregated school system.
Huh?
Explain how the segregated school system affected that, going to Howard. The segregated schools.
Oh yeah.
That's
So
tell
it was,
about why that's what she's kind of.
It's best in your own words to
your
explain what the
words.
situation was at the time.
Yeah.
oh, it was, but it was, yeah, it was segregated,
Mhm.
and it was segregated, and so I guess that's why we didn't bother about going to Dover and Howard High. It wasn't anything. It was just regular, all black. It was all
That's the
black.
main thing.
All the teachers were black and everything. So
And
then I left from Howard and I went to the vocational school, Carver Vocational School, and graduated from that.
Where was the Carver School?
It was down on where that movie Hopkins movies was. It was on French Street, all the way down on French Street. I
In
think it was
Wilmington.
about 4th and French.
Wilmington.
Carver Vocational School.
And then did you come back to Rehoboth after Carver?
Yes, I came back and stayed, then and worked in Rehoboth, worked for different people and everything. Really couldn't get no decent job. I said, I couldn't get like the now with the computer. Well, we didn't have computers when I went to school, but couldn't get no job like anything. So I just worked in private family, and enjoyed that.
Do you remember the street names where you worked, or any of the people that you remember?
Yeah, I worked for Judge John McNeely and his family, and they were on Norfolk Street at that time. But then they moved, got a bigger house, and moved over by the lake, not too far. You could look across and see the carpenter's house. And then who else did I? Well, I did a lot of days work, but they were the regular family. I worked for them a long time, and then after they died, and everything, and then I just started doing days work.
Okay.
And I went to Philadelphia, and I worked for a family of people. Matter of fact, that girl one of the girls come down all the time to see me. She called me the day before yesterday, a child I took care of, and the other moved out in Colorado. But I stayed, worked with them, and then in the summer we would go to the Poconos. And so I had quite a, I'm gonna say like my cousin said, he said, well, when I die, because he drank a lot, he said, when I die, the world don't owe me anything. So as I can say, the world don't owe me anything, because I thought I had a good time.
Good.
I enjoyed it.
Do you remember some of the businesses and stores in downtown Rehoboth?
Oh yes, I remember. My cousin, he had a service station. Leroy Harmon had a service station. I remember Evadne's dress shop, Bronstein's dress shop, and Flat's shoe store, and Wall Smith 5 and 10 cent store. And there was Eddie's linen shop, and John Winston. Remember, John Winston had a little place. He was a man that came here from Maryland, and he made real good. He ended up having a business called Winston Taxi.
Was he an African American gentleman?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that Winston Taxi?
He was real good about it, and he went everywhere. And then this woman started working with him, Virgie Friend, and after he died, then she took it over. Yep, and John had that, because I remember when he first came here, he didn't have anything, and I had a cousin that I said that Edison Long, he met everybody, he knew everybody knew him. So he got in with John, and John Winston asked him if he could find where could he place his car at night, where could he stay. So he asked my grandmother if it was all right for him to bring at nighttime, if he could bring his car and park his car in the back of the house, and he slept in his car. He slept in his car. But during the day, he was out shining shoes, doing everything. When he died, he was well off. So, yep, it was Winston Taxi Cab.
Well, he deserved it. He sounded like he worked hard.
Yes, he did. He did. He was a real heavy set guy.
Now, what kinds of things did you do for fun, both as a child and then later when you came back?
Well, most time we would have parties, a lot of parties and everything, but with the church, we had a lot of different things going on. Then I would be going around playing. Then we formed a ladies singing group, and I played for that. And then we formed a men's singing group. Then we would go from church to church or different churches and give programs and everything. And it was lots of fun. And also we did a lot of that. And then there were times when at nighttime, a lot of people on the beach would have parties, and different one of us, 2 or 3 of us all together would go and help out taking care of the parties, and doing like that. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and especially making money.
Now, I've been told a few things about how African Americans were treated differently, both, for example, at the movies or on the beach and things like that. If you'd like to speak to that,
Oh,
you
yes,
can.
it was. There was one movie at that time called the Blue Hen Theater. Spencer Foreman, he was an African American. He worked there. And blacks could go there, but they had to sit upstairs on one side. And that's where we had to stay. But everybody went in the same door, but we had to sit upstairs on one side, but he worked there. And then on the beach, we had one spot not too far from Henlopen Hotel. And that's where a lot of, because a lot of these people would come here from Washington and different places and bring their maids with them. And they had Thursday, and that's where all of them met each other on the boardwalk. There was a little place they called a crow's nest, and they had that there. And there was one spot, that was the only spot where we could stay.
And that spot was called the Crow's Nest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What kinds of things did you do for fun on the beach?
Well, we just sit there and, now some of them could go in swimming, but they just had to stay in that one spot. But then we just sit there and talked and enjoyed, each other. And then it got to be a restaurant called the Wayside Inn. And then some of them started coming over to the Wayside Inn and all. And then some of them would get together and form a little group and have parties, like beach parties or something, among ourselves like that. So that's when we would have a good time like that.
Where was the Wayside Inn located?
It was on the same street they call Church Street now. It was called Church Street, owned by John Allen.
So the Wayside Inn was owned by John Allen?
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard about the Dewdrop Inn.
Yes, that was in West Rehoboth, and that was owned by Oscar Harmon. They were all African American. And so then there was another lady, she would have a little, you might Taylor's Chicken Shack.
Lillian?
Yeah. Yeah, she had after hours. Well, then after everything was closed up, they would go there and she would have chicken and everything, fried chicken. So that's what she had. But it was so funny. She was African American, but the blacks had to come in the back way at her place. Yep. But her son Oswald Winchester, he was the lifeguard at the beach. He was the lifeguard at the beach.
I did not know that Oswald was Lillian's son.
Yes. No. Yeah, because her name was Lena Winchester. Yep, that's right. Mm-hmm.
I'm just making a note here. Okay. Were there prominent people around Rehoboth that you remember? Anybody in politics or things like that at all?
No, most of them say I remember Uncle William Jackson, and from Belltown would be Burton, Harry C. Burton, and that's the only I can remember them.
Okay. Later in life, you raised children. Did you stay in Rehoboth or?
No, I went away and I worked. I stayed away, worked for quite some time, and then when I came on back and, after I got married, well, I was married, but I had left my husband and went away. Then I came back, and he had gotten sick, so then I was taking care of him, taking care of my stepfather, and I had an aunt that was taking care of him, Mary Jackson. So then I just stayed right here. Mm-hmm. But
it's a nice place to live.
Yes.
It's a very nice place to live. Can you talk a little bit more about the school and what happened in class? What kinds of things you You learned what you liked, what classes you didn't like, maybe?
Oh, most I liked the music, and I liked English. I liked spelling, and what else did I like? English and spelling, and I didn't like drawing. But we had a teacher would come for drawing all the time, but I didn't like that. But I didn't. Then when I went to school in Lewis, and we had sewing, I didn't like taking up sewing. I never could. I started to make a house coat, and started in school started in September, and June came. I still hadn't finished it. So.
That's one of the few things I do like, but I'm not musically inclined. So
And I like music.
Yes.
I like that.
You mentioned Eleanor Loper.
She was my first teacher, and I had her picture up here, up there somewhere.
Wow. Do you remember any of the other teachers' names?
Yeah, I remember Eleanor Loper, and in Wilmington, I remember Miss. What was her name? She always called me. They call you Miss by your last name, and my name was long. She always called me Miss Lang, and we had at Howard High, not Howard, at Lewis School, we had teacher J. Stanley James. We never forget that man. He was a nice man. Every morning, we had to have a lecture. Every morning with that man. But then after everything, and then he would, go on with the class and everything. But yeah, his name was J. Stanley James at Lewis High School. But that's the only teacher I had in Rehoboth was Eleanor Loper.
Now, when you say you went to school in Lewis, that was just for 9th grade, did you say?
I went from Rehoboth 1 to 6, and from Lewis 7 to 8.
And you call that Lewis
Junior High School, Lewis High School.
And was that a separate school, or was it integrated when you went there?
No, it was separate.
It was separate.
It had 3 rooms. But J. Stanley James was the teacher at 7, 8, 9. And then there was the first, second, and grade was Mrs. Davis. And that she taught 1, 2, 3. And the 4th, 5th, and 6th was Miss Holmes, and then we went. But see, they had 6th grade in Rehoboth, but then we just went on from 7th to 9th grade in Lewis, and J. Stanley James was our teacher.
Do you remember where that school was located?
On Johnson Road in Lewis. Where that school, Lewis School,
DuPont
down that
school.
way.
The DuPont School, they call it now, the DuPont School.
That's what they call it.
Yeah, that's the one right down there. Cape and Luton has consortium, or had the consortium in it.
So that was originally...
That was the school. They all went to my dad, all of them.
Okay.
And that was unique. That was all black community anyway. And that school had brick. When the DuPont company, we all had to go to these little wooden schools afterwards. But that's where they went.
Okay. Okay. And who were your good friends when you were in Lewis school?
Oh, that was Anne Marie Parker. And she got us all left in trouble one day. And Beatrice Rowley, and Beatrice Maul, and Cordelia Holland. I had a lot of friends. And Beatrice Rowley, and Beatrice Maul, and Anne Marie Parker, Cora Robinson, and that's all. And then the guys, they were real nice. Only one I liked real good that were really good to us was Juice Wilbank, and your father,
Denver.
And
his name?
And Richard Maul, and they were real nice.
Denver Parker.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends in Lewis.
Okay, was the other one. All right, now you've got me curious. You said that someone got you all in trouble. What did you guys do?
Oh, Anne Marie sit up and was telling us about this. There was a thunderstorm, and this man, they were going to have dinner, and this wife told the man, said, "Do not eat during the thunderstorm." And Marie said that the man said, "I'm going to eat just the same." She said, "I don't want you to eat now. I'm not eating now. We wait till after the storm's over." And Anne Marie said the man ate just the same, and when the lightning came, it twisted the fork in his mouth. And we all started laughing.
That was my
And
aunt.
we all
She was a
laughed.
mess.
And Mr. James got mad with us and put us all on our knees. Put us all. We had to sit and that the music teacher came in. Mr. I can't think of his name now. He would come in and he saw us on our knees. He said, "Why are these children on their knees?" And Mr. James said, "I'm punishing them." He said, "That's not the way to punish them." Mr. Lockman,
From
he
the
taught
state?
music.
Oh.
And he taught music in school. But Anne Marie was the one that got us got us laughing, and she wasn't laughing. She wasn't laughing, but the one that we all had to get on our knees. She would tell us some stories in there, and
Sounds
we would
like
not laugh, and naturally we all would laugh.
It's always the troublemaker who doesn't get in trouble, isn't it?
That's right.
It's true.
That's
it's true.
right. She would not laugh. She wouldn't sit up. She said like just a straight face and everything.
I've got two more questions for you. The first is, do you have any philosophy about life or any thoughts about life that you would like to share?
One thing I would like for everyone to learn how to get along with each other. And just because the world is so much different now, and things are happening now, and it's better if we all learn to get along. And I think it would be a better world, because it's not nice being mad with this person or that person all the time. And it's something just, if you have something against someone, ask or mention it to them and get it out of you, and then you go on and and just try to make the best of everything. That's all I think. We all should learn how to love one another and get along.
It really is the most important lesson.
I think it is too. Very
My
important.
My last question is, do you still play the piano?
Yes, I do.
And I think I've got another tape to put in, but if you'd like, I would love to videotape you playing the piano
That
a little
would
bit,
be
if
cool.
you feel like it.
I hate playing the piano.
It's up
Yeah,
to you.
my piano's out of tune, but I play a little bit of something.
Well, I've got to get the other tape in. Hold
Okay.
on 1 second. We're going to stop this one. A little bit more so that we begin the tape, and I'm just going to test right now. You mentioned before that you have a certain kind of music that you like to play. Can you tell me about that again?
No, it's the spirituals. That's all. Because by going to church all the time, that's all I learned. I didn't learn how to play songs or anything. So just played spirituals. And then there was a guy that played for a group of men, Martin Burton. And I'd love to hear him play. Everybody loved to hear him play. And I kept saying, one day I'm going to play like Martin Burton. One day I'm going to play like Martin Burton. I never did play like him, but I tried real hard to play like him. But he could play real good. He played with a group of men in Lewis.
All right, well, we'll take just a second. Wait for 1 second.
My piano need tune-up. I hadn't played so long.
start flowing, that's your release.
See, this key is not, this pedal's not right.
Well, yeah, but we
Because
know you can play that
shouldn't
piano.
keep it down.
She's sought after by different groups that she still plays for.
I got to play tomorrow, Saturday, for a funeral.
They still have her.
And a lot of people don't like play for funerals, but it don't bother me if they
Well,
don't start crying too loud and hooting and hollering.
I know that's right.
I was gonna see if I know I had her picture.
and
Uh,
the O Delaware song,
huh?
Oh.
how does that go? The Delaware State song?
Let me see.
How was
I haven't had to listen to it.
That was it. I remember. I never forget that song.
That's maybe
it.
you can find it.
That's it.
Oh, I will find that for you. So that was the song that all the children sang at the African American schools
Yeah, we don't know if they sang it right, but we had to sing it every morning.
every morning.
Okay.
Okay.
And lift every voice and sing.
Yes.
Let me get.
When I found this, I was so happy. I said, "Oh my Lord!"
I know it. Yeah, that's good.
I don't know why
I
the
got
coat
that
of arms. The
somewhere.
coat of arms. I didn't know Delaware had a coat of arms.
Yeah, yes.
It has a
They
state
do.
bug and all
I
those
don't know
kinds
where
of
I got
things.
this from,
Some program you went to, I'm sure.
but I'm keeping it. I am.
Yes.
All right, well, let me get one big smile.
Oh
Okay.
Lord, I can't.
Don't worry about it. Okay, then you just sit that however you like.
It's-
Whoops, wait, you were looking down. Look up for 1 second. Let me go down here. Is that better?
Mhm.
Fantastic.
It's terrible.
Oh,
I hate.